With F1 silly season due to start any week now, these are my predictions for the 2026 F1 driver lineups. And where better to start than McLaren? Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris have both got contracts for 2026 and beyond, and they're performing well. McLaren on top of the championship. I see no reason for them to want to change their drivers, even though they did collide at the recent Canadian Grand Prix. So McLaren will be Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. Next up, we have Ferrari again. Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton both have contracts for 2026. Now, that doesn't mean that they'll be guaranteed to be driving there. There's been rumours that Charles Leclerc is looking around for a different drive. And of course, Lewis Hamilton could give up whenever he likes, or Ferrari could try to replace him. However, I believe both of them will stay there. I think Ferrari are happy with their driver lineup. I don't think the drivers are the problem there. They've got much bigger problems than that. And although Charles Leclerc might be getting frustrated, I don't think there's a better drive out there for him at the moment. So Ferrari will be Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. Next, we'll go to Aston Martin. Again, Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll both have got contracts for the 2026 F1 season, and we know that as long as he wants it, Lance Stroll will have a drive no matter what. And his performances, whilst not been up to the standard of Fernando Alonso, I think have been better than some people have made out. So he will definitely be at Aston Martin in 2026. And Fernando Alonso, he has a contract for 2026, and although he may be frustrated with the performance of the car so far, I'm sure he will want to give 1 year of an Adrian Newey car in 2026 with new regulations to see if, with the new Honda engine and the new regulations, they can be competitive at the front. So Aston Martin will be Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso. Williams are another team that have their drivers under contract for 2026, Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz. They've been evenly matched in my opinion in 2025 so far, and I think whilst both drivers perhaps have the quality to drive further up the grid, especially Carlos Sainz in my opinion, I believe that they'll both stay at Williams. They can see that they're on a positive trajectory. Who knows where the 2026 regulations will leave us in terms of car performance. And with James Vowles at the top of Williams, I believe that they're going in the right direction, and I think the drivers can see that as well. And with no other options at the front of the field for next year, in my opinion, I think Williams will be Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz. Haas have their drivers under contract, Esteban Ocon and Ollie Bearman, for 2026. And they've been performing decently. I think especially Bearman has been very impressive, and Ocon had a very impressive Canadian Grand Prix recently as well. So I think they're doing well together. It's a new driver lineup for 2025, so they're only going to improve when they gel with the team and with the car more and more. The 2026 regulations could be good for Haas, although I think they may be further down the grid next year, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. But I don't think Bearman and Ocon are going to get any better chances. I think Bearman's going to stay at Haas until either Charles Leclerc leaves Ferrari or Lewis Hamilton retires, and then he will take the Ferrari seat. All he needs to do is perform as well as he can in the Haas car, and he will get the car that he wants when Ferrari deem him ready. And Esteban Ocon, I don't think, will have any opportunity to go to any other teams before 2026. So Haas will be Esteban Ocon and Ollie Bearman. Next up, we have Sauber, which will of course be turning into Audi for 2026. And both of their drivers are under contract as well for next season. Nico Hülkenberg was the first driver to be confirmed as an Audi driver for 2026 when he joined Sauber. And he's really the perfect match. He's experienced, he's German, so he's good for the marketing, and he's a quick driver still. So, of course, Hülkenberg will want to stay around. He signed the contract to see what Audi can do in Formula 1, and Audi will be very pleased to have him on board with some excellent performances so far this season as well, most notably in Canada and in Spain before that. And for Gabriel Bortoleto, I believe he's been one of the more impressive rookies in 2025 in Formula 1. He has performed well in what is a car that is not competitive to be fighting for points every race. And he's put in especially some good qualifying performances, out qualifying Nico Hülkenberg on multiple occasions, and really impressing as well. So Audi will be pleased for him, and Gabriel Bortoleto, I believe, will continue to impress for the rest of 2025 and into 2026. So Audi will be Nico Hülkenberg and Gabriel Bortoleto. Now we move on to some teams where it is a bit more up in the air. The drivers don't have contracts, and we will see what happens next year. But in my opinion, firstly, Mercedes. Now, both of their drivers' contracts expire at the end of 2025. Kimi Antonelli recently got his first podium of his career in Canada. I think he's been impressive. Of course, he hasn't been up to the standard of George Russell, but not many would be, even if they were experienced Formula One drivers. So in his first season, I think he's done well in Mercedes, and Mercedes will be silly to get rid of him, and I don't believe they will. Now, alongside him is George Russell. He's been rumoured to perhaps be replaced by Max Verstappen, depending on Max Verstappen's performance bonuses or clauses in his contract which allow him to get out early of his Red Bull contract. And Mercedes, of course, have been quite open at the fact that they would be looking at Max Verstappen if he were available. Now, in my opinion, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Max Verstappen's going to want to leave Red Bull just yet, especially with the 2026 regulations coming up. And I'm sure for next year he will also have the same contract clauses. So if the new regulations are bad for Red Bull, he can still leave then. And of course, he's Max Verstappen, so he will be able to basically have his pick of most teams on the grid if he so chooses to leave. However, I think George Russell is clearly doing very well for Mercedes, winning the last race in Canada. And Mercedes will be silly to get rid of him because we've seen how when Max Verstappen is at Red Bull, his teammate struggles a lot. So they will either have to compromise Kimi Antonelli if Max Verstappen was alongside him, or not give Max Verstappen the type of car that he likes to be his absolute very best. Whereas I think George Russell has proven at Mercedes that he can be successful. He has been successful and is already ingrained in the team. So for me, Mercedes in 2026 will be Kimi Antonelli and George Russell. Speaking of Red Bull and Max Verstappen, let's move on to them. I believe that Max Verstappen will stay at Red Bull, as I previously mentioned. He has said in the past that he doesn't want to race in Formula One if it's not with Red Bull. And whilst I don't necessarily believe that 100% if the car is uncompetitive, I think it will take quite a lot for him to leave Red Bull, and I don't think that he's quite ready to do that just yet, especially with new regulations on the horizon. So Max Verstappen will be staying at Red Bull in my opinion, and he does have a contract there as well, although we've already discussed the clauses that may allow him to leave before the end of that contract. And next to him, right now, it's Yuki Tsunoda. Before that, Liam Lawson had two pretty poor races next to him, and neither of them have really impressed. But I do think Yuki Tsunoda will get the rest of the 2025 season at Red Bull, if not just because they don't have anyone else to replace him. But by the end of 2025, I think they will be fed up with Yuki Tsunoda and think they cannot continue with him like that. And I think they're going to promote Isaac Hadjar next to Max Verstappen in Red Bull. Now, for me, I think it will be a bit too early for him because I think he should have at least 2 seasons in the junior team before moving up to be Max Verstappen's teammate. But we know what Red Bull are like. They like to move quickly and replace drivers with younger and, in their opinion, better drivers. So Isaac Hadjar for me will be next to Max Verstappen at Red Bull. Maybe the new regulations will mean that the second Red Bull seat is not so much of a poison chalice, and they will be able to make a drivable car that is still quick, in which case Isaac Hadjar, I'm sure, will do well in it. But for me, in 2026, it will be Max Verstappen and Isaac Hadjar at Red Bull. So then we have to move on to Racing Bulls. Now, currently they have Liam Lawson and Isaac Hadjar, and of course I've already said that I believe Isaac Hadjar will be going to Red Bull senior team in 2026, and I believe that Liam Lawson will stay at the Racing Bulls team, the junior team of Red Bull, because I think he's quick. I think he's proven himself to be a good driver in brief cameo appearances replacing Daniel Ricciardo in 2023 and 2024. And he's been decent, I would say, in 2025, but not as quick as Isaac Hadjar. Although it must be said that despite his experience over Hadjar in Formula One races, he has never had a pre-season with Racing Bulls. and Isaac Hadjar has. And he also had a disrupted preseason with Red Bull this season due to car issues. So I think he's getting there, he's finding his feet again, regaining his confidence, and I think it will be enough to stay at Racing Bulls in 2026, although I can't see him ever getting promoted back to the senior team, at least not soon. And alongside him could be Yuki Tsunoda, because like I said, I think he's going to be leaving the Red Bull team. However, I can't see that happening, to be honest. He's already had a lot of time in that junior team, so they know what he can do. And they obviously were reluctant to promote him to the senior team because Liam Lawson got the nod over him, in my opinion, unfairly. So I think they are going to promote their new young talent, the new driver they're paying their hometown at Red Bull, Arvid Lindblad. I think that he is going to impress them. He already has impressed them. They've, of course, applied and been successful in getting him a super license before he is 18. So for me, Arvid Lindblad and Liam Lawson will be the Racing Bulls drivers in 2026. So that leaves two more teams now. And firstly, I'm going to go with Alpine. Now, Pierre Gasly is there already, and he has a contract for 2026. He's a French driver, he's a quick driver, so he fits the bill there for Alpine. And alongside him, we've seen Jack Doohan already. I don't think he's going to get a seat in 2026. We've seen Franco Colapinto, and I was impressed with him in Canada more than I had been for the previous few races, although I don't think he will be getting the full-time seat in 2026, because I believe Yuki Tsunoda will be joining Alpine in 2026. He will rejoin Pierre Gasly as teammates. They had a great time as teammates, and they did very well with each other at AlphaTauri a few years ago when they were teammates, and I believe that he'll go to Alpine. I think they'll be looking for someone with a little bit more experience that they know is quick, even though he's probably having a bit of a poor season at the moment with Red Bull. And with the new car, the new engine, I think they'll be looking for two experienced drivers, and that's what they'll get with Yuki Tsunoda. So Alpine will be Pierre Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda. So that just leaves Cadillac for us now, and I will do a full video on this to check out all of their available drivers, all their options, who they will get and who I think they'll get. But I'll tell you now who I think they'll get. So firstly, I think they'll get Valtteri Bottas. I think they need an experienced driver, and Valtteri Bottas is just that. I think he has proven that he's willing to stick around and fight for his place in Formula 1, taking the reserve role with Mercedes. He didn't have to do that, but he wants to still be around Formula 1 and still be racing if he can, if that's at all a possibility. And I think it will be with Cadillac, and I think he will be signed by Cadillac as their first driver. And then alongside him, they could go with someone young. They could go for a second experienced driver. I considered that they may go for Franco Colapinto because he brings backing. He's had a few races in Formula 1. He's obviously quick, but it hasn't quite worked out for him at Alpine, in my opinion. But I think they'll go for Sergio Perez alongside Valtteri Bottas. He brings his own sponsorship and his own backing. He brings experience. He's a race winner, as is Valtteri Bottas. He knows what it's like to also be in a midfield team, as he was with Force India for many years and performed exceptionally well there, getting the odd podium and generally just being a very good driver, which got him the Red Bull seat in the first place. So, in my opinion, Cadillac will be Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez. And that's it for this video. Let me know down below if you disagree or you agree with any, and let me know if I've forgotten any drivers as well.